We're in my space, my awesome studio that I love. I've been here for a long time. This is where it all gets done, right here. What are we gonna do? As photographers, we are gonna do the number one thing that we need to do, which is we're gonna light these puppies. We're gonna light these people up like you would not believe, and this is where photography all starts, right here. All right, so we've totally zeroed out my space, right? There's nothing here. You can see nothing. I am gonna build this from scratch right here for you to view so you can see the whole shebang. I like to light men and women slightly differently. With women, I really prefer a continuous light setup. I use LEDs, and with men I do as well. But I use a triangular setup for women, very even flat lighting, which I'm going to show you. And for men, I use two of a key light and a fill and a kick. So there's a 3-light setup for both of them. And occasionally with women, I'll go to a 4-light setup, and we're going to discuss the differences between the two and why I do one and the other. So let's start building this stuff, guys. You ready? Let's go. All right, guys, so I'm setting up my signature lighting setup. I'm big on wheels. I love wheels because I like to move my lights, and wheels are really easy, so you want to get something on wheels. I'm also a big fan of arms. Now, do you need arms? No. But do they help the situation when you're moving lights around? To get very specific on your lighting, it's always nice to have an arm. Okay, guys, if you've seen any of my stuff in the past, I used to use Kino flows. I'm big on continuous lighting. Kino flows are fluorescent continuous lights. I moved into an LED situation, and I'm working with Westcott, and I designed these myself with them. They're amazing. And this is a 1x3 LED panel called a Flex Light, and it's part of the Peter Hurley Flex Kit from Westcott. So I built it into this frame, and it goes on like this, and it attaches to the light stand with a clamp right here. I've got some diffusion that goes along the front. I like to keep that diffusion taut, so I put it in up top, and I stretch it as it goes down. So this is nice and taut so that you go across like this, and this sucker stays as far away from the LEDs to get as much spread of light as it comes out of the unit as possible. And it should be taut, so you want to crank it. Crank that sucker. There's a couple things that I love these lights. These lights change the game for me. I really love them. The main reason is that I couldn't go out of the studio with a Kino flow. I couldn't travel. I couldn't bring them on the big jobs that I got. I couldn't bring Kino flows. And I was used to continuous lighting. Completely changed the way I shot when I was getting big jobs and having to go on location. Now I bring this all over the world with me. Everywhere I go, I always have my lights. Key element to this. But I also love the dimmability. These have major control. I can control them down to like from 1 to 100% on the lights, and the power out of them is unreal. So I really love them. It changed my game and made it streamlined my whole operation. Now I can go myself without an assistant. I just got back from Australia. I went myself with my kit, no problem, running around the world, piece of cake. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you my women's setup first, a triangular setup. So I put my clamp in the lower corner of the light like this, and I simply clamp it down. This is I favor the left side of the face with my women's setup for some reason, because I feel that about 60% of the individuals that you'll photograph are better looking on their left-hand side. So I'll show you how, we'll leave that there for now, and I'll show you how it's set up once I get the other ones going. So again, I love wheels. I love traveling with my Hurley Pro bags. I designed a water ballast bag so that stays on my lights, although the Flex Kit's very light, and sometimes I don't even need these. I do use them a lot, and I love them. But I'll keep them on in here. So like again, the Flex Kit's very light and it's LED, so I don't have to worry about it getting beat up or breaking or anything. These suckers are tough. Again, I'm stretching this over the light to get it as taut as possible. This one I consider this my key light pretty much, even though it's the same power in general, but I usually favor the left-hand side of the triangle. I don't do a normal even triangle. I'm going to show you why I do what I do and what my theory is behind it and the fact that it works well. I've been doing it for years. All right, when I'm in the studio, guys, I like the grip head with the center jaw vice clamp, and that's what this setup is. It's just quick, it's easy, it allows me to get it on every angle with ease. When I'm on the road, I like the dual joint tilter bracket, this little bad boy, because it does everything in one little unit. And it's lighter and it's easier to travel with. It's just not as simple and as quick and as efficient as these suckers in the studio. And since I'm in the studio every day and these lights are set up and generally never move, this is what I'm using in the studio. But this saves me weight of a grip head and a center jaw vice clamp with one unit. So, and it's a simple tilt and it works great. You know what the other cool thing is, that the LEDs are so lightweight that when I travel, I can bring these with me. So I just bring these stands. So these are little Manfrotto stands that clamp together. They're really light and tiny. They fit in any bag I usually bring. And then that way I can bring my whole kit with stands. And then I just put on the little dual bracket tilter thingamajig. And now I'm in business. And I can get it a little bit away from the arm. Not the same distance as when I have an arm, but it gives me a little bit of play. And that setup works really well if you want to be lean and mean. What I'm doing here, and since I've done this so often and I really concentrate, I want you to think about your footprint, all right? And the people that are inside this area. So I am actually positioning these so that the legs are as far away from my subject as possible. So the light gets set up after the legs are in place. So if somebody's going to be standing there, I don't want their feet or anything being impeded by a light stand. This is the bottom portion of my light, so I'll just set that up like this. And once I get the legs where I want them, then I can move the light specifically into position for the person I'm shooting. And the thing about my setup that I love, and that's very important, is I jam these lights together. I mean, they're in there. If you look at all my raw files, you'll usually see the lights within my frame. I really like the light jammed in people's faces. So we're going to discuss that and why that's all happening as we go. This is a ballast, guys. This is what controls the light. I got to take this sucker with me, and this powers the light. So it's going to give me a readout and allow me to adjust my settings so I can control each light independently. So I will keep my cords clean. I keep everything on one side. I run this cord around here to keep it away from falling and out of the way of my light. So it kind of hangs up on here. And then I'll run it down the stand or potentially put it around something like that. So it runs off here and under and through this way. I have an individual ballast for each light. And that allows me really amazing control of the power. The fine-tuning these lights is pretty cool. That's one of the things I like best about it, is that I'm so specific on my lighting, I can adjust it very easily on a percentage basis. Again, run it over and up, get this out of my way. I want this out of the way. I don't want to hang into the light, so I'll run it out like that. When I was looking to create a system that was lean and mean, as I say, able to travel, beautiful light, continuous light, something really simple, and that's what this was. I had been shooting with Kinos, and I had problems with people with sensitive eyes. I had to turn off bulbs, which would change the light itself, which created a problem for me. This, I'm just dimming, and it's so much easier. People that are sensitive, you just dim it down, and you're good to go. All right, guys, so now I'm setting up. I'm going to plug in this 1x2. Peter Hurley Flex Kit from Westcott consists of 2 1x3 light panels and 2 1x2 light panels. For women, I generally use 3 of them, and for men, I generally use 3 of them. However, I do use the 4th one as a kick on occasion, or as when I want to do a square. So right now I'm going to set up these the bottom 1x2, which is one of my favorite lights for my women's beauty light. It's called, I call it my buddy Phil, and it's imperative. I really stress that when I'm shooting with any kind of lighting, I use reflectors with natural light, but with continuous light or with strobe, I like to use the actual same source that I'm using for fill as what I'm using for the key usually. So this light actually underneath means the world to me. It really changes the look of my work. I'm jamming these lights together. I angle and tilt and do all sorts of things that I'll explain once we have our subject in there. The height and everything's imperative, and I usually set up the triangle not like a regular triangle. It's not like this kind of triangle. It's not like an isosceles triangle, because I think the light on top is really important. If you put a triangle like this and put the person in the center, the light in this area is not as powerful as it is right here, so the top of the head changes. So since 60% of people I've found are better looking on their left side, the key light is on my camera left, because I'm potentially going to make their nose go towards the key light. In most of my work, the nose is always going to be pointed towards the key light to eliminate any shadowing, especially with women. So the bottom light fills in this area, and we have a little opening over in here, which we're going to lose a little bit of light in this area in the corner, which will create a hint, just a hint, potentially of shadow underneath the jawline, which we want. If we want to cut up jawlines, we'll show a little bit of that. It's one of the reasons why the square fills everything, but the triangle, I like the catch light better, and I just love the setup, and I like them really tight and close. All right, guys, so I've got my lighting basically set up for my female lighting. I do put in, which we're not going to do right now, if I want a white background, I strobe the background. But for our purposes, I want to key in on the light that I'm lighting my subject with. So I'm going to let the background fall off to gray until we add some strobes into the background. I'm bringing my camera in. I am huge on having it on a tripod. I love my tripod situation that I'm in. And I have a ball head that's really important. So the gear that I use is the tripod's a Feisel CT3472LV. I love this thing. And this is an Arca Swiss PO ball head, which I'm really a big fan of as well. Right now I've got a 70-200 f4 on my Canon 5DSR. This is my go-to in-studio setup. All right, I'm pretty much set up with my lighting. I'm happy with the way this is going to go. I've got my subject here. Sheila is here for me to photograph. So I'm going to bring her in. We're going to get another camera situated under mine so you can see the whole works in action. Guess what? I've got Sheila in front of my lights, and my lights are positioned where I want them. They're positioned perfectly for her. How tall are you?
5'3".
She's 5'3". She's a tiny little thing. And the lights are specifically set up for her. So before I turn them on, I'm just going to discuss lighting, positioning, and what I consider my Peter Hurley Flex Kit Go for Light for women when I'm shooting headshots. And it's specifically what I'm now terming my cocoon lighting. So I feel like they're just in this cocoon of light. Like, do you feel like you're in like a cocoon of light? Well, I haven't turned them on yet. When I turn them on, you'll really sense that. Anyway, so the key light, essentially, even though they're all pretty much even, I still consider this one my key light because it's on the left side. 60% of people are on the left. I could flip this and make it a right-sided triangle or cocoon, if you will. But however, I always set it up on the left and keep it that way generally 90% of the time, 99% of the time, I should say. So this light, the center of the light, which is where the clamp is right about at her ear height. Is that about at your, yeah, that's about at the height of the ear. Because we're shooting headshots, we want the light to be centered in the basically the center of the ear is the center of the head. So if the top of the light's up here and the bottom of the light's down here in its center, that's where I want to be on this light. Then I've got the other 1x3 across the top on an angle. And the angle is determined by how much I like the angle. I don't like the angle too severe. I keep the angle pretty, this angle pretty open. It's not a 90-degree angle, but it's a little bit less than that. But it's not like a traditional triangle. And then the bottom light is actually straight in front of her. I might turn it a little bit and then twist it a little bit. And I can vary all this because they're on wheels and they're very easy to adjust. Now, the one on the left, camera left, is angled forward and a little bit off center. It's a little bit, it's not quite vertical. It's a little bit angled forward like this, and it's angled forward. The beauty of the grip head with the clamp is that I can get it exactly in the position I want. The one that goes across the top is angled forward as well, and it's tilted towards the top of her head, and then drop down as low as I can go without chopping her off. Now, I don't mind if it goes in the frame, but right in the largest part of the triangle, which is right here, I'm going to have my space for shooting. So that's where I'm going to place her head. And then the lower light, the light below her, goes as high as I can possibly go without seeing it in frame. So I'll keep it just out of frame. This one's just in frame. And this one I can crop it in frame or leave it out of frame. But the most important one's the bottom one. It comes up just high enough to keep it out of frame. Okay, so let's turn these puppies on. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. All right, so I know my power settings. My power settings for my key setup, the flex kit is very powerful. When it's this close to the human face, some people are sensitive. I know that if I get in there and I put these at 30%, it's too much for me. However, most people can handle it. I'm a little bit light sensitive. I might need 20%, but 30% for the general, average everyday human. How are you?
Good.
You can handle that?
Yeah,
I'm going to still put it now. The bottom light, the 1x2, if you'll notice, it has a different ballast, so there's less power output. There's more juice going out of a 1x3 than a 1x2. So I can essentially amp up the 1x2 to match the 1x3s. That's what I'm doing. So I'm going to turn the bottom, my buddy Phil, on now, and I'm going to put it at 50%. So I've got these two at 30 and this one at 50. These are my key settings, and this is my settings where I start my base settings, where I always start my cocoon lighting at. Beauty light, look at that. Unbelievable, guys. I didn't even take a picture yet and she looks gorgeous. All I got to do is press the button. Amazing. Now, the key to all of this, and one of the factors in the thing that I'm always keying in on, is the positioning of the subject's face and how close it is to the lighting. We know about the inverse square law. I know that I want the face as close to the light as possible to get the light as soft as possible, and to make sure I get as much, I want the light to fall off as quickly as possible. I really want the lights to do the job that they're there for. And in headshot territory, I really like the person as close to lights as possible. However, we've got 3 lights. So there is going to be a point where these 3 lights converge. At that point is where I want the face. I do not want the face in front of that point. If that face gets in front of that point, the lights aren't doing everything that I need. If the face is behind the point of convergence, I'm good. If it's too far behind the light of convergence, we start to flatten out the face. If it's right at the light of the convergence, we get a really nice highlight on the face, and then it falls off a little bit on the cheeks and stuff, and we get it to go a little bit darker. So right now, it looks like Sheila is in the perfect spot for me. So let's see. If we draw a laser beam line, I want you to imagine the center of a light. And we draw a laser beam right out of the center of the light like this, and it comes this way. So you can't go in front of this line. And let's draw a laser beam here. So where would these two hit? They'd hit like right there. So you can't go ahead of like right here. And then this one's hitting there too. So that's your spot. So go up to there. Don't go ahead of that. If you go ahead of that, a laser beam hits you and you essentially die. That's really the key. I'm going to lower this one a little because I think the laser beam was a little bit off on that one. There we go. That's my setup. And I've got, if you notice, I'm wrapping the light around her, and I've got this light on an angle. So in order to get the light around her, I'm creating that cocoon by wrapping the lights around her as much as possible by keeping this one on this angle and this one on this angle. Now, I'm watching. That looks fantastic. Come forward a little bit more. You just got killed. Go back. No. Yeah, I don't mind her going back a little bit. I got her right in the light. If I go to my camera and I look through my viewfinder, I've got a situation that is fantastic. I see the light in my frame, which means my lights are really close. My retoucher knows how to take care of that for me. We're ready to roll. I'm going to take a shot of Sheila. Let's get started. All right, guys, so I took my initial shot. Here it is. I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to come over and make sure my lighting's good and that my settings applied to the image are right in Capture One so that I can continually just shoot the rest of the shoot with those settings, those applied settings. I can change them later. I'm shooting raw. I'm always shooting raw, so it's not a problem. One of the things that I've noticed is that the bottom light is coming into frame. I like my lights in frame, but I don't like them to hit my subject. So as you can see, the light in the top of the frame does not hit her. It's easy to take out. The light in the bottom of the frame is just creeping in there, and it's affecting my image. So I'm going to lower that light just a smidge. I'm gonna make sure my applied settings look exactly like her in my lighting. And I've looked at her, and I've looked at my settings, and I really like this. I'm at base settings. Base for me is 5,000 on the Kelvin in my setup. I know it's 5,000. And the tint is at 0. I occasionally, if I feel like there's too much magenta in it, I will lower that to anywhere between 0 and -2. I usually don't. I might go to -2.5, but that's about it. All right, guys, so I've been doing this every day for years, right? And I've been working with the Flex Kit for the last 2 years to perfect it and how I want. Of course, my lighting's always set up like this, and the person's going to walk in and the light's going to be solid right off the bat. However, I teach this on a consistent basis. I see people screw it up. For me, it's the minute details that make an image perfect, or as close to perfect as you can be. And it's these details that I want to show you that people are kind of not quite getting right, and we want to look at what you could potentially do wrong and you know, see what pitfalls you might fall into. So one of the things that I really don't like is when your subject looks uplit, when there's a lot of light coming from the bottom. And my 1x2 is my buddy Phil. If Phil is too hot, it's going to look strange. So I'm going to put Phil at 100. Is it much brighter down there?
It is much brighter.
Yeah? Okay, so she's feeling the love from the light, but not low, it's hammering her. Hold that, and I'll take a shot, all right? All right, guys, so we're just looking at the lighting here. And as you can see, she's blown out, so, which I can adjust if I want to, let's say I was just taking the shot by showing you when too much light's coming up from the bottom. You can see that her neck is really bright. The light is like plastering her all over the place. It's not cool. It's not cool at all. You want to make sure you don't uplight people. So now, the other mistake that you could do is that you could have very little light from the bottom. Let's look at that. So we're going to go down from 100%. And I'm going to put the light at 10% instead and take another shot. Good. Can you give me a hint of a smile maybe? Like a hint of a smile would be good. There you go. Hold that right there. I want to show them what is going on. Now I've got essentially from the catch light you can see I've got absolutely very little coming up from the top. And you get all this detail in the skin. When the smile starts to go, you start to get these shadows in the laugh lines. You get darkness underneath the chin that wasn't there before. And overall, it's not adding as much light to the face. So you can see that it's not what I consider my beauty light, which would be right here. Look at the difference. That's too much, that's not enough, and this is just right. Okay, so now I've got my lights set at the right settings. Let's see if she gets too close or too far away, what the difference is. We know what we like, we're back at our settings. Come forward a little bit. Chin down a little bit. Hold that right there, that's perfect. Guys, what did I tell you about the eyes? The light in the eye. I want to make sure that the front of the eye is brighter than the side of the eye. So what happened now is I'm shadowing in the corners of the eyes because I brought her ahead of light convergence. The side of the eye is lit up about the same as the front of the eye. I don't like that. And you can see that there's shadowing in the very corners of the eyes. It's a subtle difference, but look at the difference. It's a huge difference in terms of what you get on the face. She moved closer to it, and she got ahead of where the lights are converging. The lights are essentially not doing everything that I set them to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slow down my shutter a little bit, move her back from the lights, and I'm going to show you how the light should flatten out as she gets further back, so it'll give it a different look. But we'll try and keep the exposure consistent. So take a step back. Take another one. One more. Hold that right there. There we go. Okay, I'm going to slow down my shutter speed. Let's go right here. And so I moved her off the lights, right, which making her essentially darker. So I had to slow down my shutter speed so that I could expose properly for her, which essentially lit up the background. I want you to look at the quality of this compared to the one that I believe is perfect, or the one that I believe is my setup. I want you to look at the quality of this and look at it compared to the one that I shoot at with her close to the lights, but not too close. To me, the face looks flattened out. If you look at this one, you get more saturation in the colors, you get the bone structure a little bit. Here, it just flattens everything to me, and the quality of the image goes down. I think that it's a quality thing. The further away she gets from the lights, the flatter the light is on her. You're going to get the lights really performing the way you want them to perform the closer that she is to the light. So the lights are actually doing their job, where I'm getting highlights on the forehead and the cheeks and the chin, and then as she moves back, now I don't have any highlight. Everything's kind of flattened out. This is what I consider my gopher beauty light, like my thing, my flex kit, my cocoon, whatever you want to call it, right? But I show this and people continually screw it up. One of the things that people do, which I do not understand, is that they think the triangle is more like this and more like this. Now, does that appear like that's what they do? Why would you need the lights that far away? I don't understand that. You're taking a headshot here, and look at what we're doing to it. Now we've got some sort of funky lighting situation that's kind of side lit, accentuating like her nose, and just not flattering to me. I can tell because of the catch lights, right, that those lights are far away. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. I can tell. Look at those catch lights. See how small they are? They're not big enough. That's not my light. That's not what I did. This is what I did. That's my thing. Look how beautiful. I mean, for me, that's gorgeous. That just looks, it looks like there's something wrong. Like it looks cheaper. It's hard for me to, it looks like the quality went straight down the tubes to me. This is what you have to train your eye for, right? So it's just too, it's kind of side, it's not, it's, you're neither here nor there, it's haphazard. Not liking it. I've put my lighting back into the cocoon type configuration that you know I love. And one thing that you may notice is that I love allowing my background to fall off to gray. I do it all the time, I do it on a daily basis. But I'm really known for my white background. So I've got to create my white background too. I'm lazy. It's very easy to use the gray and the white simultaneously when you have a white wall. So we're going to go for white, and I'm going to teach you how to specifically do that in a way where it's going to look its best. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to bring in some lights. So let's say for now you only have one head at your disposal. I am going to place it directly behind my subject. Now, since I'm shooting headshots, I can hide this behind the human. And I usually like to hide it so that I'm not going to see it at all. However, if you think about my camera height and where your background is, the area that you really want to concentrate on to light evenly is right absolutely behind her the way that this is pointing now. So it would be actually back here. It would not be lower, it would be higher, it would be somewhere in here. So what I would do is point that light directly here, get it low enough so it's hidden, and then aim it up to right about where the background is. So right here is the center of the background, and I want to try and make that as even as possible. This is with the one light setup, all right? And we're going to start off with this at the lowest power and build it up until we get to white. I don't want to over flare the background because I'll get flare all over her. So I've got one light behind her. I'm at the lowest power setting. I'm getting my trigger. Those are 500 watt D1. That's a 500 watt D1 behind her. I got the remote. We're going to test it. It looks good. Let's give it a shot. All right. Right there. That's perfect. She's amazing. Has she taken a bad shot all day? No. All right, and now my gray went a hint of a light gray, but we got room to move there. It's not even close to the white that we're going for. So I'm going to go, well, I'm on a pro photo system, so I don't know, I don't have to move. I'm just going to bring it up from 4 to 5. Let's try another one. Perfect. There you go. Now we're at 5. And now we're getting there. What I like to do with Capture One is I like to get my RGB values 250, 250, 250. I don't want to go to 255, 255, 255 because then I'm getting flare. I can tell those values aren't there yet, so I'm going to go up a little bit more. I'm going to go to 5.3. Let's try 5.5. Let's go crazy. Here we go. Good. Okay, I'm at 5.5. Now I'm going to look at that value. And yeah, I'm at 5.5. I'm going to check my values. And I'm still not there. I'm at 225, 225, 224. Let's go 7. We're going 7. Guys, I'll do this every time. Anytime I have to set up, I do this. Here we go. Now I can see I'm at 242, 242, 242. That's white enough for me. I like to go to 250, but I'm getting flare. Look at the hair. You see what's happening? The hair is starting to go into Flaresville. You guys can see this. Look at the top of her head. Look at this. If we zoom in here, look at this. See the top of her head? Look at that compared to that. Look at the exposure on the hair from there to there. You could see it. Look at this. None of my settings are changing. You're just getting some wash from the back. All right? So, what do we need to do? All right, so you see that it's starting to get a little bright. I would probably stop right there and keep it there. And if I wanted to go from 242 to 242, 42 to 250, 250, 250, or 255 or whatever, I could always get my retoucher to do it because it's starting to flare out. I'm not blocking any light from hitting her, from coming back. But this is the inherent problem that most photographers have, is that they go too overboard. So let's say they go in there and they want their background white and they just crank this puppy up like you would not believe, and then they take a shot and they shoot like this, and now she's living in Flaresville. That is not cool. There's nothing cool about that. Unless you're doing some sort of fashiony thing where you want her to look etheric or something crazy where she's from outer space, and you think that that's cool, that's great. But that's not what we're going for with headshot photography. When I'm doing this, I'm looking for where light is spilling, and where light is filling in is if the strobe hadn't gone off. So I can always take a shot with the gray background and then compare it to what I've got. So watch the hair here. If the gray background, watch the hair. I've got a lot of saturation in the hair. I've got tones in the hair. I've got dark, light. As the strobe starts to get brighter on the background, I see light coming back. Look how much lighter the hair looks here than it was 2 frames ago. It's a huge difference. So that's what and that's totally just being lit from the strobe in the back. So I want to light my subject with one light. I don't want the strobe in the back adding light to my subject, generally speaking. So guys, to work on this, I'm going to even out my lighting on that hits the background by putting 2 lights on each side. That'll give me more room not to be concerned about hiding the light behind her either. And I'm also going to put some V-flats to block as much light that could be possibly coming back at her and creating this flare of the subject as possible. Now, I'm unencumbered. So, height of my strobes, I like to point them very straight to the background. I like the strobes at shoulder height because generally speaking, the background's going to be right like here. I also don't like to point the strobes directly at the center. I point them a little bit off center. So a little bit just left and right of center. Keep them even as possible, shoulder height. And I'll come back here and I'll look and I'll be left and right and center. So the center of the background is going to be where they're combining their light. So it's really even. Now I'm going to block as much light as possible. Right? Coming Sheila's way. Blocking as much light as possible from Sheila. So she's nice and tight. She's got the cocoon lighting. She's now got V-flats. She's in my little box of joy. Now, since they're combining, we have to go back to square one. So I'm going to put them, this one's on 8. I'm going to actually point it straight. It's pointed down a little bit. I'm going to point it straight. I'm going to go to, I always start low and work high. I'm going to 5. All right? I'm going to 5. I'm going to start low and work high. I'm going to 5. Perfect. Oh, wow. Beautiful. So now I've got a touch of gray on the background, right? I want to go white on it. So 5 was just gave me a hint of gray, but I got really nice tones in the hair. So let's go to 6. And let's see if that gets us our white background with, let me see, I'm at 6. Oh, now we got beautiful. Now we've got, still got contrast in the hair, and we're back. We want to be right at 240. So we're right about there right now. And we still have the contrast in the hair that I want, unlike when we were in Flairsville before. Look at the hair here, and look at the hair here. Hair there, and hair there. So guys, I mean, that's really, what we're doing is, this is how I'm creating my white background. If I go as low power as these strobes go, I can do a light gray. If I turn the strobes off completely, I can go as dark a gray as I want. I can almost make the background go black if I get the ambient light out of the room, and if I move the flex kit further back from the background, I can make white almost go black. So you can adjust it through using the inverse square law, and you can have a lot of fun with that. It's really helped me because I used to shoot white background forever, and then I got lazy. I was like, let me do some gray. People love gray too. I like neutrals, so I'm very happy with the gray. So I'll watch my levels and play with the different levels of gray. Having this setup's unbelievable. It sits here. This is exactly what I got. I have it like this, and it's always in this configuration because I'm shooting headshots every day. And if I'm not shooting a headshot, I can easily use the flex kit for other purposes. I can wheel them around, move them around. If I'm shooting somebody against one of my backdrops, or if I'm doing a full white cyc head to toe, I can move this out. But I have the lights set up just like this because I know the next client walking through the door, I'm good to go. And I know my settings, I know exactly what's going on, and it's just a smooth studio operation to keep this show on the road. All right, so we just finished the women's lighting, right? So now I still got it set up. So Dan came in, I figured why the heck not use it? So now I'm gonna set him up. I got him in the cocoon. I just had to raise the lights because he's taller. And we're gonna shoot something like this. And then I'm gonna go and show you exactly the transition into my men's lighting. This light is perfectly wonderful for men.
The only thing that I decided that I wanted to shadow up guys to add more depth to the shot, and you know, guys look rough and tumble if they're a little more shadow on them, and I always wanted to be shadowed. The real story was because I wanted to be shadowed as a model. Nobody ever put shadows on me, so I'm shadowing up guys. But this is perfectly good shots. And if you're doing a corporate type shoot, you can just stick with this lighting the whole time if you like. I very rarely on corporate jobs ever create high density, high shadow density on the cheek. So if I'm trying to match a look over the course of shooting a corporation or something like that, I'll stick with this lighting just to make it easier on myself. Look how good it looks. He looks great. This is going to work. I think we need to mix it up. I'll show you where I go from this look into doing my men's lighting, but in a subtle way with very little difference from this, where it can still match the women, but looks a little different than what you're seeing right here. Okay, so what I did is I took out the bottom one. I got my two main lights that I had that were the upper portion of the triangle, and I left the one that was camera left on the same angle it was on. It's just tilted a little bit forward, and I took the other one and I moved it down so it's the center of it's right around the earlobe, and I went very straight to about perpendicular to the floor, like almost straight up and down vertical with it. All right. And this is going to create, I'm going to get a lot of fill out of this. It's going to look very similar to the look that we get if I wanted to match a women's and a men's lighting in a corporation or something like that. Scoot a little bit this way, just a little bit, right about there, Dan, that's good. Get your forehead out and down. There you go, good, less misery. Hold that, no, you hold that, I'll take this, take the hint of the smile, settle down in there. There you go, good. So we'll take a look at this, and we'll see how that compares to the last one. Same settings. Now you can see I've got a slight transition, but it can easily match up against a women's lighting shot. Transition from the key light, which is hotter, on the right side of his face, camera left, going to the right where you get a little bit of shadow, but that fill is still at 30%. So what I can do is I can vary that down, which I actually like what's going on here. So I might not even vary it down. I might just move it away. And I always move it a little further away and a little closer to me so that there's more fall off of fill with fill. Tilt your head a little bit this way and go nose a little bit this way. There you go. Hold that, Dan. That's great. I can work with that. Let's see how this looks. See if we start to get a little hint of a shadow. Little more shadow on the face. Not very much, but looks pretty good. So I've got a couple things going on here. I have a lot of light coming in from outside, a lot of ambient light in the room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my V-flat to block it. Watch this. Because I believe that his face is not only getting hit with my buddy Phil here, but with the outside light. So watch this. All I did was move that V-flat. Watch the difference. Go nose back about the same. Yeah, right about there. Hold that. There you go. And I want you to watch the shadow density. Look at the difference. So there was ambient light in the room, right? Large amounts of ambient light. Now I like this look a lot, so I might just shoot like this. I could also, if I wanted to open up those shadows, I could do something like this. Hold that. So I just moved Phil in a little bit. Give me the chin down. Cross your arms in front of you. See how that looks? That's it. Give me that brow pressure. Good, that's it. Tilt the head this way a little bit. Hold that right there, fantastic. Good. It's just beautiful light. Now, if I really want to go for my look, the look that I'm used to, I think Dan can handle it. I want to make him look like a badass. I'm going to bring Phil down to 5%. Not only will I bring it to 5%, I'll bring it up to me, and I'm going to move Dan a little closer to the light. Obviously, if you've got illuminating face, you know how I like using the inverse square law. And premise is, closer to the light, the more light fall off there is. And we go into great detail on that tutorial if you're up for that. Nose this way a little bit. Hold that. Tilt the head this way a little bit. Hold that right there. That's great. Good. Now look at that shadow density. Now this is really the look that I like going for with guys. So there's one thing missing. I like that cheek to be hit with reflected light. So I put a kicker or a rim light in there, and it's back there. I set it up, but I didn't turn it on. So let's turn that on. So guys, I always have the kicker opposite the key. So whichever side the key's on, kicker's gonna be the opposite. You could put 2 kickers back there and then you wouldn't have to move them very much, but you're not gonna see much kick on the side of the key light because the key light's so bright. But now watch. Watch the difference from this shot to the last. Look at the difference. Good with the hint of the smile. Very good. Look at the difference. See that kick just starting to light up that cheek? Really nice. And it gives me a little bit more separation of him off the background. And I like the subtlety of the kick. There's not much there. If I move the camera to a different angle, if I move over here, I'll get more kick. If I move over here, I get less. You have to watch its reflected light. So where the camera is positioned is where you're gonna see either more or less of the reflection. So let me try over here and see if I can get that kicker to flow down his cheek a little bit more. Hold that. Fantastic. Now that's better. I don't have to tell you, that's good, better energy. I want you to get, yeah, see that warm guy? I booked that guy. When I add the white background, it's gonna add some bounce, some light's gonna reflect off the background, so we might even get more kick. Let's try that. See how the power is on this. Jam the forehead out, get the chin down. Hold that. Good, let's take a look and let's see what the white background does. Not only does that bring up our kicker, it also brings up our shadow density a little bit. So we could go with a little bit less power on these lights in the back. So I'm going to bring them down a little bit. Right in here, Dan. There you go. Scoot back an inch, stand up straight. Good, right there. Jam that forehead out. Hold that. Get the, absolutely, good. And now we got a little less flare. I want you to bring your body slightly turn your body slightly this way. Scoot back an inch and then go, freeze your body and go nose that way. Bring your shoulder, your right shoulder towards me. Keep going. Freeze your body. Go nose towards the light. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah, like that. And follow my hand. Tilt the head this way. Chin down a little bit. Guys, if I get the head over there, and I tilt the head a little bit, I can get the kick to run up the side of the cheek as well. That's one of my things on men's lighting. If I want more kick, I'll do this move where I do the 11 to 1. So the body's at 11, the head, the nose is at 1. It's at about 12:30 actually. If this is 12, right? If you were here, you're a little bit here. Yeah, stay there, just like that. And then that helps me get and then give me a little brow pressure. Good, that's it. Good, I leave the lights in frame. My retoucher can get them out, not a problem. And now I like that shot a lot. I like what it does for the shoulders, getting one of them back. And it's always been my favorite position. Well, now that I have the lighting exactly where I want it, now I can kind of mess around a little bit. First I'll go, and since I like his different sides, I know that the nose towards the key light is going to allow the shadows to fall behind him, so that's why I've got his nose over here. But I can try the nose over here. Try the nose this way. So now I just moved him, so now I'm kind of side lighting his face, so his other side is going into shadow. Go nose this way a little bit. It also is a way, if you notice people's nose, sometimes they're curved when they go one way and straight when they go the other, so I can always light it to straighten out noses and stuff like that. But I like this angle of his face, but I'll watch the shadow density on the dark side. Let's see. It's interesting. And it's very soft because the lights are so close to him, so that transition off into the shadow land, off the side of the nose, this shadow density right in here where you see it on the camera left side of his face is a very smooth transition. So if I wanted to, I could even get my fill completely out of here and then look straight into the camera, right like that. Yeah, and then turn straight to me and move back an inch. Now jam the forehead out and down. Yeah, chin up a little bit. There you go. So I can create a lot of shadow density on that side and get some side lighting, but get them straight on in there for a more dramatic look. And then I could also flatten out, and I'll do this more in fashiony stuff than a commercial headshot-y type thing, but you know, you can flatten out the light, go very side lit, stay right where you were, and now you're shooting like a look that's very like, half the face is going to be pretty darn dark. Hold that. Good. And if I go, I still know I'm getting flare. If I go without jam your forehead out and down. Good. He's kind of like, maybe he's going for a sinister look. We make it a little darker. We go with the gray background, and then we lose all detail in the face on that side. So what I really like to do, and the reason, what my favorite thing is to bring the light around. And this is one of the reasons, there's a couple of reasons why I shoot the light in frame. One is because I need it so close because of the inverse square law. But the other reason is because I like to get the other side of the cheek lit. So guys, what I'm doing is I kind of go for this look to get that like kind of Rembrandt-y, I guess is what it is. I never studied that kind of stuff, but I guess that's what this lighting is. Nose this way. So what we're getting, nose this way a little bit. Yeah, back this way. There. So I'm looking to create a shadow right here. See the shadow? I'll watch, and I'll put this light exactly where I need it. With this setup, it's good. There we go. All right, now I'm happy. Tighten this back up. And there we go. You can see the shadow moving so right here I want to create shadow because I want this to fill it. So right about there is about the light that I normally do. Come forward a step, maybe. I just got to make sure, you guys, that as long as that light does not hit him, I'm in business. Squinch those eyes up a touch. Fantastic. That was a good move. This is more of the lighting than I'm accustomed to. Like that. And let me try it on a gray background. Good. That's it. Squinch that. Your right eye is a little bit bigger than your left. Did you know that? Can you squinch your right eye a little bit more? A little bit more? Yeah. There you go. Good. I wait till I see that squinch, guys. Then I hit it and I work on getting the side. Oh, wow. That's a shebanging shot for me. Nice. I like that a lot. That's more like my speed. The shadow density is pretty heavy though. So what I'll do is I'll keep the light exactly like it is, but I want to bring in my buddy Phil. And I want to see how Phil opens up Dan's cheek now. And let's try this. There you go. Good. Hold that. Squinch it up. There you go. Good. So let's see. I moved him over a little bit, but let's see. And I want to do it with the gray background. Stay right there. Squinch it up. Jam that forehead out. Get that chin up a little bit. There you go. Something like that. I can work with that. Jam that forehead out a little further. Keep the brow pressure. Squinch the right eye. There you go. Good. If he moves his face an inch, tilt that this way just a little bit. Watch the nose this way. I got my kicker. I got my nose towards the key light, and I got my fill going on. If he moves just a smidgen, that's going to change my whole lighting setup. I love that shot, and I love the way that's lit. I'd probably stay there and work with him on that angle. So I'm going to change him, and I'm going to work this angle to the bone. So now you've got a good sense of what I do with women and what I'm doing with men. It's pretty simple, guys. It's no rocket science. It's all by eye. I shoot with continuous light so I can see what's going on. I shoot tethered so I can confirm it. And that's about it. This entire tutorial is not about lighting. I want you to have simple, clean lighting that you're comfortable with, that you can create on a consistent basis. This is really about getting your subject where you need them to be. Make sure your lighting's down, and then you move on from there. So we're not going to dig too deep into lighting and stuff like that. It's got to be good. It's got to be great. I want you to keep working on it. But this is really about working with your subject to get the best out of them.